Right now, the whole world is watching transition of leadership in the U.S. in the aftermath after election, even though President Donald Trump still refused to concede in the election, but Joe Biden has already begun his mission especially in terms of coping with COVID-19. In the second part of exclusive interview with the U.S. ambassador to Thailand, so I asked him what his take on this leadership in transition. You are in Thailand at a very crucial juncture, especially for the U.S. And if I don't ask you this question, I may be fired by my boss. Right now, the whole world is watching political transition in the U.S. and we are very much interested in aftermath during this transition, after the leadership transition. What's your take, or what can you tell us more about this transition?
Well, whatever happens by January 20th, there will be a smooth transition of power one way or the other. The process under the U.S. Constitution provides for the Electoral College to have its vote on December 14th. And at that point in time, the ultimate election result will be determined.
And you are the first political appointee ambassador in Thailand in nearly 50 years. What will be your transition in particular? What do you have to prepare yourself?
Well, I'm the first political appointee probably in about 25 years. I think I'm the first appointee from the private sector ever, so in that case. But regardless, I really enjoy being here in Thailand, and I like promoting the economic environment here. I like business here, so everything will work out fine.
And do you see that transition will be quite smooth? Because as far as we can see, we see that it's quite a big challenge for the U.S. right now.
I think if you look back historically, there's been lots of interesting periods of U.S. history where people have said it is very contentious, or it is the most contentious period in U.S. history. Every single one of them has had smooth transitions. So I am not concerned about that at all. And Thailand should not be concerned about that at all either.
In terms of foreign policy, do you expect to see shift in terms of policy from President Trump to President Joe Biden?
I think we've found that policy, particularly foreign policy in Asia, is relatively bipartisan. So I don't see, regardless of what happens, I don't see significant shifts in foreign policy here in Thailand or in Asia.
And you must have known that RCEP has been materialized. It's signed by 15 countries already, and it's something that ASEAN and China are very much looking forward to. But the US is not part of RCEP. Do you think the US is losing opportunity in this case in terms of joining this free trade agreement?
I actually asked all my business council advisors here in Thailand that question, American businesses, do you think we're going to be disadvantaged because we're not part of RCEP? And to the one of them, everyone had said no, not really much significance of RCEP. I mean, in Thailand already has reciprocal free trade agreements with, I think, every country that's involved in RCEP. So as it goes to doing business in Thailand for other countries, or for American businesses accessing other countries through Thailand, RCEP really doesn't change things that much.
And if you can advise to President Joe Biden, would you advise him to join CPTPP in the near future?
It's not my position to advise him.
Ambassador, during your mission, you have been working very hard. In nearly 1 year, you wrote so many op-ed articles. It seems that you have finished all your agenda in 1 year. What else would you like to do?
No, I've got lots more to do. There's lots more that I can do.
So what else would you like to do?
You're missing the fact that it's been, about 5 weeks since I've written an op-ed. You're missing my op-eds? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, you have been working very hard and writing so many articles about your insight into Thailand after so many discussions, after crucial discussion about Thailand. So what else left on your agenda?
Well, there's lots left on my agenda. I'm just a very active, busy person, so I've just accomplished a lot in 1 year, but there's a lot more to accomplish. Just last night, for example, I hosted a dinner of 16 CEOs of some of the largest companies here in Thailand that are active in either investing in the U.S. or importing U.S. products or otherwise dealing with the U.S. economy. So my goal continues to be to try to promote these companies and try to get more economic engagement. I'm actually looking forward to trying to host a conference in January on helping Thai companies learn how to become global companies. So using some of the successful examples of Thai companies, the CP groups, the Thai unions, the Indoramas, the PTTs, others that have actually turned themselves into global companies, and helping them educate other Thai companies on what it means to go global. How do you actually become a successful global company? Because I really am a real believer in the strength of the Thai companies and Thai economy, and I think it can become much stronger going forward.
Technology-wise, right now, the whole world is watching how the confrontation atmosphere between the US and China is so apparent in terms of technology, Huawei, 5G. What do you foresee this tension gonna be carried on in the near future, and how the whole world would be affected by it?
Well, we've definitely seen a large number of countries, I don't have the statistics, but the vast majority of NATO, the vast majority of the EU, the vast majority of many of the countries in the world have now signed on to the clean networks processes here from the State Department, ensuring that they won't use untrusted vendors in their telecom system for 5G. So I see that being the trend and definitely gaining momentum, that countries really are focusing on the security and safety of their network providers and making sure that they use providers that are not subject to compulsion by foreign governments to cooperate with their foreign security services. And so that's important to many countries, and we're seeing great momentum in adopting clean networks and clean paths.
In terms of Thai politics, you must have known the situation right now, and there are so much conspiracy theory that the US is trying to intervene to create more difficult situation. What do you like to tell Thai people?
Well, that is definitely not the case. There is no interest in America to create difficulties here in Thailand. We are not funding the protesters or funding the protests or otherwise instigating any of what's going on. We don't support any political side, any political person. We support the institution of democracy, and we're very pleased to see that the protests have generally been peaceful and the government's response has generally been restrained, and I think that's a really good thing that we're seeing.
But you also have alert to U.S. traveler and U.S. citizen in Thailand as well about the situation of tension in Thailand. What do you like to tell the whole world of the political situation in Thailand?
Well, it's interesting. I remember my mother had a call with her a couple weeks ago where she was concerned, read in the newspapers about the protests in Thailand. And she asked me, is everything okay? I'm like, Mom, the protests here are very restrained. They're very small, compared to other protests around the world. There's no concern. And when I speak to the business community here as well, they're not concerned by the political environment. They don't have any issues with what's going on. Democracy and political processes can be challenging at times. They require people to express their views. And allowing people to express their views is not a problem. I mean, that's not an issue with democracy. If protests in countries indicated that there was a problem with democracy, America would have had a problem forever. There's always been protests in America. So I think that Thailand is just going through a process that will ultimately resolve itself in some way. But it's a normal part of democracy.
And Electoral College in the US will vote to elect president on 14th of December, and we will see the ultimate decision by Electoral College on this election. And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight. Thank you very much for watching.